Have you ever wondered what factors contribute to the development of PCOS? From insulin resistance to hormonal imbalances, to genetics, to environmental factors, inflammation, and diet. Today, we will uncover the key risk factors that could be impacting your health and PCOS journey. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Mariah, and I help women manage PCOS and insulin resistance. Through practical tips, education, and tools, I'm here to help support your journey. With over 8 years of university education, including a naturopathic medical degree from CCNM in Toronto, I've guided hundreds of women to improving their symptoms, regaining confidence, and to just feel better. Subscribe to my free newsletter by clicking the link in the description box below, or feel free to check out my website at metabolicmo.com. Let's dive into today's topic, the most common risk factors of PCOS. In no particular order, let's dive into the 7 most common risk factors. Number 1 is insulin resistance. Number 2 is hormonal imbalances. Number 3 is genetics. Number 4 is environmental factors. Number 5 is stress. Number 6 is inflammation. Number 7 is gut microbiome dysbiosis. Now let's break down each factor into a little bit more detail. Insulin resistance. In women with PCOS, insulin resistance is present in 75 to 90% of women. What is interesting about this statistic is that it holds true for women who are considered lean PCOS, and it also holds true for women who are considered overweight and have the PCOS diagnosis. This highlights the crucial need to regulate your body's insulin sensitivity, and we can really do this with diet and lifestyle changes, which I am definitely going to dive into in future videos. What insulin resistance means is that your body is not hearing insulin when it's kind of knocking on the door. Your body becomes resistant to insulin. This can disrupt your metabolism. It can cause blood sugar imbalances. It can be an underlying factor of so many conditions and diseases. You have insulin resistance, and then type 2 diabetes comes. You have insulin resistance, and then high cholesterol comes, and so on and so forth. Being very cognizant of your insulin sensitivity is going to play a really big factor in overall health, but also in reducing your symptoms of PCOS. Just so I don't leave you hanging about some of the diet and lifestyle things you can do to improve your insulin sensitivity, one quick tip to help is actually increasing the amount of fiber that you're currently getting in your diet. Studies have found that dietary fiber slows down the absorption of nutrients after meals, leading to reduced insulin secretion, and that results in more balanced blood sugar levels. And additionally, studies have shown that people consuming high fiber diets generally just have improved insulin sensitivity and also lower body weight as well. Next, we are going to talk about the hormonal imbalances that contribute to the development of PCOS. When I talk about hormones, I'm often talking about testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, luteinizing hormone, follicular stimulating hormone, sometimes cortisol as well, but particularly it is the sex hormones that I'm discussing in relation to PCOS. Talking about testosterone, we'll start first with androgens. Androgens are essentially the male hormones. It has to do with acne, hair growth along the chin, breast tissue, stomach, and back, and it can also contribute to irregular periods. Women with PCOS also have altered LH to FSH ratio, luteinizing hormone ratio to the follicular stimulating hormone ratio. When these are off balance, that can also contribute to irregular periods and trouble with ovulating. And then in some cases, women might not produce enough progesterone. And when you don't have enough progesterone, again, that can also contribute to menstrual irregularities, lack of ovulation, and so on and so forth. Troubles with fertility is what can result from that. Next, let's talk about genetics. A family history of PCOS is going to increase your risk of developing PCOS down the road. Having a family history of metabolic syndromes, that could be type 2 diabetes, that could be high cholesterol levels, high blood pressure levels, even just having the diagnosis of insulin resistance. If you have family members that have these diagnoses, it does increase your risk of developing PCOS down the road as well. And while genetics can predispose someone to getting PCOS, there are a lot of diet and lifestyle things you can do for your health that play a significant role in managing PCOS. Now let's talk about a big one, environmental factors. Some people might not even have thought about these contributing to the PCOS diagnosis, or at least exacerbating the symptoms that you might already have, but it definitely is something to take into consideration. Exposure to certain chemicals can impact hormone levels. I'm mostly talking about endocrine disrupting chemicals, so that's called the EDCs, and exposures to these can disrupt your body's endocrine system, your body's kind of hormonal system. These chemicals are often found in everyday products. That includes plastics, pesticides, cosmetics, and household cleaners. A few of them to be aware of is bisphenol A, so that's BPA, and another one is phthalates. BPA is a known endocrine disrupting chemical, and it's often found in plastics and food packaging. And research suggests that exposure to BPA over a long term increases the risk of developing PCOS by disrupting hormone levels, particularly estrogen and testosterone. And then another environmental factor that is definitely worth noting has to do with smoking and alcohol. Both smoking and excessive alcohol consumption have been associated with hormonal imbalances, and this could potentially worsen symptoms of PCOS. Just be mindful if those are part of your lifestyle practices. Now let's talk about stress. We all got stress, but chronic stress can actually affect hormone balance, blood sugar levels, and exacerbate symptoms of PCOS. When we think about stress, we often think about cortisol. Chronic stress can lead to dysregulation of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. And that axis, that kind of control system, is what controls your body's response to stress. When you have high levels of cortisol for long periods of time, so chronic stress, it can disrupt your menstrual cycle and it can worsen insulin sensitivity, which are both relevant to PCOS. And now what's interesting is that stress-induced cortisol release, so stress causing cortisol to be released from the adrenal glands, contributes to insulin resistance because excess insulin levels can stimulate the ovaries to produce more androgens. Your ovaries do produce androgens, testosterone, and that can actually then in turn exacerbate and make worse the high testosterone symptoms, the hirsutism, the acne, the hair loss, and things like that. And now let's talk about inflammation. A lot of things can contribute to inflammation. Stress can contribute to inflammation. Poor diet can contribute to inflammation. Lack of hydration and proper nutrients can contribute to inflammation. And there is a link with inflammation and the PCOS diagnosis. Chronic inflammation can definitely disrupt hormone balance, and it can also contribute to insulin resistance. We're probably seeing a pattern here. A lot of things are contributing to insulin resistance. A lot of things are contributing to hormonal imbalances. And then the last thing that is extremely interesting is that there is a relationship between the gut microbiome, the bacteria that live in your gut, so the large intestine, and a relationship with PCOS. So an imbalance in gut bacteria may contribute to PCOS by affecting metabolism, hormone regulation, and inflammation. And also, probably not a big surprise, but gut dysbiosis can also lead to insulin resistance and inflammation. Again, everything's connected and we're just figuring things out as we work together. Again, those are the 7 most common risk factors of PCOS. Something to be mindful of going forward. A lot of them are modifiable risk factors. Obviously, you can't really modify your genetics, but for those of you who may or may not be familiar with epigenetics, is a really cool concept or research area that shows you may have the genes that cause, let's say, PCOS. But in order for those genes to be turned on, certain triggers have to occur. What this means is if you are in an environment that is very much promoting a PCOS, then again, it increases the risk and worsens the symptoms of PCOS. But the opposite is true as well. If you start making diet and lifestyle changes that help to reduce the symptoms of PCOS, then in turn, you might be able to flip that switch off or dampen the signal a little bit. And down the road, I may dive into epigenetics a little bit more as well. I wasn't planning on talking about it in today's episode, but it fit in well, so I thought I added in on a whim. And if you found today's video helpful, please hit that subscribe button, then I know to continue making content for all of you.